welcome to Spiritual Artistry. This is a show where we talk all about spirituality, art, and spirituality through art. I am Francesca Bandino. I am a fine artist, a psychic medium, an energy healer, and a spiritual teacher. This is episode number 3, and today's topic is rebuilding, and it is inspired by this painting that I painted called Rebuilding. If you look at it, there is a shattered heart here. When we're talking about rebuilding, we're really talking about stepping into the next version of ourselves. This really happens after something, could be tragic, could be traumatic, could simply be something that you were just so hopeful for, so looking forward to, expecting to go a certain way, and then it didn't go that way, right? I base a lot of these on my own experiences, which I choose not to talk about in detail here, but I have seen this for people through loss, as in when someone passes away. I've seen it for other people through divorce. I've seen it for people who have maybe lost a job, or their life just isn't looking the way they had originally planned for it to be, right? These are moments that can be heartbreaking, and there's a reason why we use that word, right? If the event is extremely traumatic, it can feel like everything has been shattered, okay? And then the point of rebuilding, which is what happens in this painting, is putting those pieces back together. When I create, especially my abstract paintings, but not only, I don't really know what the final result is going to look like when I go into it. I do paint intuitively, the way I often channel these episodes intuitively, and I teach intuitively. I know I am always being guided by a higher power. When I started to create this, it looked completely different, okay? And as the layers built on, more things started to happen. And what started to happen here was this image of this shattered heart, right, with the magenta pieces of the heart all scattered all over, but coming back together. And the heart looks imperfect. That's just a result of us having the experiences that we've had, and, being aware that everything isn't always roses and butterflies, or whatever the saying is. I'm really bad with saying, so excuse me. But as we're putting those pieces back together, we could actually be creating a better, more stable, more authentic version of ourselves, which then allows us to step forward and move forward into the next part of our lives with the knowledge that we've gained from our previous experiences, not in a cynical way, but in a way that empowers us. And now we can set up better boundaries, or be able to show up doing the things that actually bring us joy, instead of doing what other people expect us to do. So when I created the outline for this episode, what was coming through was basically the steps to rebuilding, right? What does it take to rebuild our heart so we don't just stay in the place of pain, in a place of hopelessness? In order to move forward, you need to keep seeing what else awaits you, okay? Or even if you don't see it, know that something bigger and better and more miraculous awaits you. I talked about this in episode number 1 about journeys, right? Things happen, whether you see them as good or bad. I see them all as just moments, right? And they inform us in the next chapter, wherever it is that we're going. When we're rebuilding after a tragic loss, after, let's call it an interruption, something that just changes your life course from what you expected it to be. The first thing we're doing to rebuild our core is to pull from our strength and our courage. And let's say that you don't believe that you have strength or courage, especially maybe not emotional strength or courage. I am going to tell you that you do, because you find it in those moments. And what may look like strength or courage to someone else may look different for you, right? So, a lot of people, for example, say to me that I'm really courageous because I drove across the country alone. I just like go out and do things alone without any worry. I say that it's because I am divinely being guided to some of those things, right? I know with certainty in my heart that it's okay for me to do that. For other people, that's scary. But I don't think that they're not courageous because they don't do things alone. Maybe they love to go skiing or surfing. And those are two things that kind of scare me. So, am I not courageous because I don't go skiing or surfing? Right? We all, these are just examples, but we all have these places of courage and these places of strength. And when we're rebuilding, what we're doing is going back to our core, to our authenticity, and determining where is my strength, where is my courage, and how can I pull myself out of this with that strength and with that courage. So those are the first building blocks that you're putting back together in your heart space. As we're building that strength and courage, we're rebuilding trust in ourselves. And therefore, as a result, trust in the universe. I won't talk about that this episode, but when we're rebuilding trust in ourselves, what we are remembering is that we can trust ourselves to make good choices. We can trust ourselves to have good intuition. Even if we made a mistake, or even if we didn't see something coming, or maybe we saw something coming but didn't take action on it anyway. Guess what? We still had intuition there. We still knew the right thing to do. Just because we didn't do it last time doesn't mean that moving forward, you can't take the right steps for yourself. So we have strength and courage. The next step is to find trust in yourself again and to build trust in yourself again. When we finally have that strength and that trust, the next thing to do is to examine the experience, because you aren't going to learn from it if you haven't looked at it, right? And this can be really painful for some people. So, take the time you need to do that. Do it when the time is right for you. Maybe you need to do it more gently than someone else does. I'm someone who does it aggressively because I just want to quickly move forward. It takes the time it takes, right? Some questions I ask myself, these are general questions. It depends on the specifics of the situation that left you brokenhearted. But I can always go back to my intuition, right? So the first thing I ask myself, not to criticize, but to understand what happened, is where was I not paying attention? And I do this all the time. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a shattered heart. It's like I stub my toe and I'm like, oh, Francesca, pay attention. What do you need to pay attention to? Not that you need to pay attention to that corner that you stubbed your toe on, but what thoughts were you having? What maybe I always like to think it's like a nudge from the universe, right? Like, oh, you weren't paying attention to maybe this negative thought you were having and it caused you to stub your toe. I always look at that because it's always just like, hey, pay attention to what's going on in your mind, or pay attention to what's happening in your life right now. So when something heartbreaking happens, I could guarantee that most of the time there were little inklings, little feelings, something that was telling you that something wasn't quite right. So ask yourself, where did I need to pay attention? Where was I ignoring something? Even ignoring something as basic as a feeling I was having, right? A lot of times in society, we're taught to be really logical. And I consider myself a very logical person. That's why people who know me are sometimes then confused that I'm also an artist and a medium. I digress. So then you have to marry logic, right? Reason with intuition. And the word, think about the way we speak. We talk about gut feelings, right? We're talking about gut feelings because sometimes we can feel, our body feels and understands things before our brain does. So if we go back to, where was I not paying attention? I bet you can feel it in your body where you weren't paying attention, what you were maybe choosing to ignore, or sometimes, honestly, something is happening and you just don't understand, right? You're having certain feelings, but they're new feelings to you. And so, or it's a new experience, so you're not sure why you're feeling a certain way. Well, guess what? That is now information you have moving forward. I always tell my students, no shame, no blame. You knew what you knew at the time, right? So that may have been a new feeling for you. So it's fine that you didn't know yet, right? We're all here learning and growing. The other question I like to ask myself, and sometimes I do this when I'm coaching others as well, where did you not respect or honor yourself? This is especially for people who haven't built strong boundaries yet or haven't honored their boundaries yet, but not only, right? Sometimes, like I said before, we know what we know at the time. When we honor and respect ourselves, we stay on our path. Some people may not like us along the way. That's their problem, not yours, right? When you don't honor or respect yourself, you kind of go off your course. You may be doing it not realizing that you're not respecting and honoring yourself because maybe you're getting something else out of it. And then you'll keep pushing that way, right? But Spirit always finds a way to get you back on course. And I always say that when we're not listening, the lesson hits a little harder. And that's the heartbreak, right? That's when suddenly it's shattered, like, oh my God, I was doing all this for nothing. So, in examining what the root cause was, where you may have not respected, honored yourself, where you may have not listened to your intuition, oh dear, I forgot the first line I was saying. So, in doing this, now I remember, in doing this, you are allowing not only to rebuild the heart, but you are allowing it to expand. Because now, when you have more in there, guess what? It grows. And you know what else? There's no more space for the things that no longer work there. Maybe bad boundaries don't work for you anymore. Gotta go. A lot of times when we go through something, and I've noticed this a lot, let's say as a collective, we went through COVID, right? And for some people, it was traumatizing to be stuck indoors or stuck not seeing people. Whatever the experience was, there was a knowing that things were going to look different later. And people are feeling that right now, right? Like things just never went back to normal the way they were before COVID. But what if we are meant to be somewhere better? Guys, the rebuilding process is hard work. It is not easy. It takes time. I would say that as a collective, we are in a rebuilding process, and there are some ups and downs, to say the least. Okay. But who says that we aren't going through this for a reason, and that on the other side, you know, things are going to happen that weren't even in our imagination. We didn't even think were possible. This isn't to diminish the pain. I truly believe and understand the pain that certain people are going through in this moment, that they went through during COVID. I'm there with you. But let's not forget that in this rebuilding process, as we're expanding, we're making space for newer, bigger, and better things. What if your imagination just hasn't brought you yet to the bigger and better thing that could happen for you? Guys, if you want to work with me, if you want to connect with loved ones who have passed, angels, ascended masters, your guides, basically the white light beings of the universe, you can book a reading with me. I also offer angel Reiki healing. This is for physical or emotional and or emotional healing. I connect mostly with Archangel Raphael, but other angels do come through to also offer healing wherever it is needed. I am teaching courses and workshops pretty regularly. So if you want to sign up to know when those are happening, go to my website and sign up for the newsletter. Also, all of my paintings can be found on my website. I have original paintings. These are unique, one of a kind. No one else will have them once you get them. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. I love you. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you at the next one.